Once you know that a month had gone by quickly, knowing that it's the month of Titanic. Well, this is about to close to the end, and the close to remember of until next year. Don't push it, please. Once you know that all things must come to an end. And speaking of, everybody knows it all, but I didn't want it to think of was the books. Yes, I told you, books. Not about Titanic, but passengers of Titanic. Well, who's the passengers, to say the least? Well, as I stroll by around on those passengers who were on Titanic, that is safe to say, then know about this person or people of their backstories and backstories to be taken on a ride. And so pictures of them or no pictures to be leaking of. So anyway, it might be a story catching all for the good or the bad times, to say the least of that. And say the least of the good stories or their horrible stories to ever more to say. Let's start with Sisters of the Fortune by Anna Lee Huber. I might couldn't pronounce the name, but trying to it. Well, apparently, this book is a mixed review for that, but it's a 4.5 stars on Amazon.com as well as Goodreads. If you want to get the website on Amazon as well as Goodreads to get the novel, to say the least. But anyway, it is a good story for that. Apparently, is a is a is a I can say that, which I cannot tell you on video. Now, well, the description will explain this everything. And the description might to be related towards another novelist who wrote another book for that. But anyway, it is a good captain read. But a cap a page turner for that. So anyhow, for that, it is about the Fortune sisters who got different personality and different quirks and traits, but the chat, but they bound a personality is about to be tested and tested for a good reason for that. With three sisters who have their different personality and different ways of everything to be spare of. Be spare of. Knowing that the Fortune family came from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, you know about that. Knowing all for this faithful way and the faithful of faithful sisters and chances to change their lives or change his life forever after this post Titanic elapse collapsing collapsible for the last second. So knowing knowing about them is a great way to be well to be a wonderful story for that. Knowing is a non-fictional book, not a made-up book to say. So, thanks to encyclopedia Titanic.org, knowing that I check on the story, check on the background check from this encyclopedia Titanic.org on the Fortune family. So let's start with Mark, who was born in Clarkville, Wentworth County, Ontario, Canada. I'm sorry, but I couldn't pronounce his this county name for that. On November 2nd, 1847. My apology. He was a son. He was a farmer's son. So he went. So he ended up. So he made millions like a self-made millionaire. My apologies for this camera tilting. He was a self-made man with bank accounts which match other family lane, whom lured to California of his dreams when he was a teenager. That he spent several years in San Francisco, California for that. He returned back to Canada of this new territory, province of Manitoba, where he, in 1871, he, where he married Mary McDowell from Porter La Prairie. I could not pronounce that name for that. Anyway, they had 6 children: Robert, Clara, Ethel, Flora, Alice, Elizabeth, Mabel, and Charles Alexandra, as they live in 393 Roseton Crescent Crescent of Winnipeg, Manitoba. What a surprise for that. Apology. He made his money speculating in real estate, buying property along the Seine River, when Winnipeg, Maine, through Lookout Avenue as survey and ran through much of fortune poverty. His, his posterity was unsure. He served as a Winnipeg City Council and was a trustee of Knox Esteem. Please, I do apologize for this laptop and not to mention the tablet mess up. So hang in there, guys. And his commentaries remember him as brash and self-confident, probably most expert of Winnipeg curlers. His judgment was sound, his discrimination keen, his life purpose high. In 1911, Fortune built a substantial 36-room two-style mansion, which although now converted into three condominiums, still stands at 393 Wilton Crescent. Sorry, I'm not going to continue to pronounce it. Mark Fortune never traveled anywhere without a red paint buffalo coat, a having more than for a garment. His wife tried to talk him out of packing so useless a piece of clothing on a trip to Egypt, but he considered it a talisman and wouldn't listen. The night Titanic sank, he came up on he came up on deck wearing it, judging that the coat had indeed come in handy in the cold night. In 1912, Mark and his family traveled through Europe on vacation. The two eldest children stayed behind. On the tour, they met William T. Sloper, who, it seems, was so taken with Alice that he decided to cancel his passage on the Mauretania and travel instead on Titanic. Well, shocker. After after a while in Egypt for about a couple of weeks or even a month or so. Sorry, apology again. The Fortune family had returned back to Europe as they boarded on the ship Titanic in Southampton, England, for a ride back for a sail back home. For a sail back home. Oh, sorry. The Fortune family had occupied cabin C 23, 25, and 27, which of the seats the seat that plan map has shown it out towards it. Mary Mary Fortune, named Mary McDonald, was born in Changapuja Township, Peel County, Ontario, on May 12, 1851, who was the daughter of John McDowell and his wife Mary. She grew up with 14 brothers and sisters in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba. She married she married Mark Fortune in 1871, which I told you about that. So let's move on, shall we? Let's get the background of the Fortune daughters, shall we? Alice Elizabeth Fortune was born on 10th of May, 1887. She was the daughter of Margaret Mary Fortune. She was still living. She was still living at home when she was invited by her parents on the grand tour in February 12th. She was sitting on the veranda of Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo when she was approached by a fortune teller who warned her, "You are in danger every time you travel on the sea, for I see you adrift in an open boat. You will lose everything but your life." William Soper, who was there when it happened, wrote about it in his memoirs and said, "Alice gave me Smith some money, and the little man disappeared into the turbulent crowd." She was 24 at the time when she set sail on Titanic. Apparently, at the time of disaster, she was engaged to Charles Holden Allen, who was born in St. John, New Brunswick on August 28, 1880, and graduated from the University of New Brunswick. At, After the sinking, Alice and Charles were married on June 8, 1912. Charles quickly gained prominence in business and governmental affairs of Canada. For some years, practiced law in Brampton, New Brunswick, and later was assistant to the Canadian manager and director, National Survey Company in Montreal. They were the parents of one daughter named Beverly Allen, who also lived in Chester, Nova Scotia. Alice and Charles had a vacation home in Chester, Nova Scotia, and it was to Chester that the couple retired. Alice died on April 7, 1961, and is buried in a cemetery in Chester. And sadly, the Encyclopedia Titanic all then mention of the notes on uh, Charles Holden Allen for that, but it might be lost for this. For her daughter Marjorie, she married Clark Rutherford in March 1940. They had one son, Robert, on December 7th, 1941, just when Pearl Harbor had been attacked, which is Pearl Harbor of that American soil in Hawaii had just attacked by the Japanese Nagasaki of the suicide mission for the Japanese admiral. Well, you know the rest. Clark was lost at sea when the ship he commanded, the HMCS Ontario, was sunk in World War II. In September, apparently, his body never found, which is unknown to this day. In September 1942, Marjorie married again son, to Marjorie for a case. She married again in 1948 to Lawrence Henry Norris. Their marriage ended in divorce in the mid 60s. Marjorie resumed using her previous married name, Rutherford. That was how she was known from then until her death in 1997. Flora, real name is Ethel Flora Fortune. Well, Flora is a middle name for that. She was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba in September 22nd, 1883. She she just announced her engagement to a rising Torino banker, Crawford Gordon the first, when her parents invited her to join the family on a grand tour of Europe. So Ethel and Anna agreed to postpone her wedding so that she could stop for a Tulsa. I cannot announce this word. And Tulsa, oh, in Europe and chaperone her younger siblings, Mabel, Alice, and Charles. In Paris, she bought gowns from the leading fashion house Charles Worth. Her grandson remembers her as one of those headstrong women who set her own goals and then pursue them ruthlessly. Ethel almost never made it off Titanic. Intentionally, she thought getting into a lifeboat was a waste of time and left her sisters on deck to return to the comfort of her cabin. Back in her cabin, a steward informed her that her mother had gone on deck and escorted her to a lifeboat, which is 10. Just as it was being lowered, she had to jump into a lifeboat. The people in the lifeboat caught me, she said later. As the Titanic sank, Ethel was haunted by one last terrifying glimpse of her brother Charles. In the water, life jacket on, struggling to stay afloat, she couldn't possibly have seen him. It was too dark. And by the time Titanic went down, the lifeboat was a mile away from the side. But the thought of Charles falling about crying for someone to save him stayed with Ethel for the rest of her life. She married Crawford Gordon in 1913. 7 years later, they moved to Jamaica and then to London, England, when her husband was appointed manager of, of the Bank of Commerce in the UK. Their firstborn son, Crawford Gordon III, became the head of the Canadian aircraft manufacturer plant, A.V. Rowe, and in the 1950s was responsible for producing the prototype of the Avro Arrow aircraft, at the time the world's most advanced military aircraft. Ethel Gordon Everett Gordon named Fortune died in Toronto, 20, March 22nd, 1961, and is buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery, Section 29, Lot 664. Sadly, we couldn't find a note of faith of her husband. Sadly, we couldn't. The note couldn't show about the faith of her husband and son for that. My apology. Sadly, we couldn't know the faith of her husband as well as her son too, which that the encyclopedia refused to tell on the whereabouts for that. Which the tombstone explains it all. Crawford had passed away in 1957, just before Ethel had passed on too. Sadly, her husband passed on in 1957, but I don't know what the date or month might take place before Ethel's timing death. But the couple's son is unknown to this day. I don't know of his death. Mabel Helen Fortune was born November 3rd, 1888. She was described as a pathetic, unself-conscious, and highly strong. She was active but spoiled, much to her parents' charging. She had fallen in love with a jazz musician from Minnesota by the name of Harrison Driscoll. Inviting her to come to Europe with her family. Mark and Mary Fortune had hoped to settle the romance, taking Mabel away for several months. After the timing of the disaster of Titanic, Mabel ended up marrying Driscoll in 1913, and they have a son, Robert. But unfortunately, Mabel had left her husband to live with another woman she had met in Ontario. Her name is Charlotte Armstrong. She put her son in boarding school for the rest of her life, living Armstrong in Victoria, British Columbia. Mabel Driscoll, named Fortune, had died in Victoria, British Columbia on February 19th, 1968, at the age of 79. She was 23 when she boarded on Titanic, but it might be a string of luck that she survived with her failed marriage for a short while. But anyway, you know the rest of it. Charles Alexander Fortune was also born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, on October 13, 1892. He was the only son of Mark and Mary Fortune. He just graduated the year before from the Bishop College in Lennoxville, Quebec, with calculus, with continuum of academic and athletic excellence. I cannot spell the continuous part. He was about to enroll in McGill University when he returned from a grand tour of Europe on the Titanic. Apparently, on April 15th, Titanic ended up striking the iceberg. Only Mary, Alice, Flora, and and Mabel have survived on Titanic, have survived again into Lifeboat 10. Mark, Sally, Mark, and Charles hadn't. Their bodies had never recovered, and they assumed that they end up underwater, on the water of the ocean, but that's a tragic effect for this. But the tragically of that. For Mary in this case, she never remarried after surviving on Titanic until she passed away in Toronto on March 8, 1929, at the age of 78. But there is no source of her burial in Canada, which Encyclopedia Titanica refused to give of this information for that, which they cannot tell it at all. And speaking of the book, the Sisters, the Sisters of Fortune is a wonderful book, not to mention of this biography story of the Fortune sisters who have mostly survived for that. With the aftermath of Titanic, with their lives spawned out of it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the book about them, but knowing the reviews about the Sisters of Fortune is a wonderful story. Grip between it of these three sisters, of their lives spun around it, of their different paths of their lives within the personality. Well, it is a wonderful but grand grand stories about them, which is a true story to say the least, but is reveling of connection. They are they, the fortune have left of descendants. My apology towards his notification bell for that. Apparently, the Fortune family have a descendants who are still living in Canada or in America. Either way, when they when forget it. When in the knowing about the Fortune family background, what had become, or why everything of their faith changes towards the more on the merrier. But either way, a wonderful story of a non-biography to read, and not to mention to grip on reality of this book, of this novel, book I mean. And now I have to take a video break for now. So coming up on part 2, which that I'm going to review. Which is this. Which I'm going to tell a review about this novel. And I'm going to give the biography might give a biography of this on this Astor family, on this Astor clan that I might could talk about for this. Thanks to this video of the part-time explorer for this background showing of this unsinkable ship, as well of the encyclopedia Titanic.org. The link is shown up of this next video that I'm gonna be posting on.